You're listening to Nervous Breakdowns, a podcast where your questions about relationships, dating, personality, and mental health are answered by Gino Tramontelli, a nationally certified counselor with a master's degree in clinical and counseling psychology. Here's the man himself, Gino Tramontelli.
Oh man, ladies and gentlemen, did you guys hear that new intro? Starting to sound a little bit professional around here. So I just wanted to thank my buddy Mark Zino Citarella. He's a good friend of mine from college who was nice enough to do some recordings for me and did that really professional announcement at the top of the show. I also changed up the music because some of you didn't like my porn music that I had. So wanted to do that. My friend Mark is he's a sportscaster. He does a radio show down in Baltimore. Wait, first of all, stop it, you guys. I want you guys to drop everything right now. All right. I know you guys use Twitter. I know it because everybody uses Twitter. So if you use Twitter, I want you to go and follow my friend Mark at Mark Zino, MarkZinno. And I want you to follow me at Breakdowns with G. If you don't have Twitter, guys, it's 2014. You know, Twitter's like so in, it's almost out. But go on your phone and download the app. It's free. And then you can go and register for it. Follow me first. Follow my friend Mark Zino. Then, follow your favorite celebrity. You can, catch one of your favorite celebrities melting down. Like if you follow Justin Bieber, sooner or later he's going to post a dick pic or something. So definitely follow that. Or if you consider yourself more enlightened, you can follow like Neil deGrasse Tyson and hear him say smart stuff. But the idea is Twitter's a fine app. I would like you to follow me. I would like you to have a conversation with me about the topics you hear in this show. I want you to participate, boys and girls. So, my friend Mark, beautiful man, inside and out. He's a veteran, fought in the Iraq War. And so go follow him on Twitter. If you don't follow him on Twitter, you hate America. I mean, that's what it boils down to, guys. So, you can either follow him on Twitter or hate America. You make the choice. All right. So Mark also, incidentally, is getting married pretty soon. Congratulations, Mark. And that ties into the topic of today's show. So today we're going to be talking about marriage. Now, listen. I've been married 9 years. I did a little research on the topic, so I have some data and statistics to talk to you guys about today. But I am going to talk primarily to the fellas out there and a little bit to the women. So, let's get to it. So, marriage. Yeah, 9 years for me. Married to my wonderful wife. And actually 9 years next week. It'll be our 9th anniversary. And, I've had a great experience of marriage. I love being married. I am very fortunate in the sense that I married a wonderful person. She is, listen, the truth is, I can't really take care of myself. So I kind of need to be married. I don't think I would be able to function properly without a spouse. So thankfully, she's a good caregiver. But, there's so many misconceptions about marriage. And I think that a lot of them come from men, frankly. I don't want to be sexist, but I think women are wired differently with regard to marriage. I think that marriage comes more naturally to women, where men have to really overcome, some kind of a hunting instinct. Or I think men often, when they're in a relationship that's committed, they think that they were a better, a more, what's the word I'm looking for? More active lover when they were single. And the fact of the matter is, most guys out there, you guys are struggling when you're single and you're lucky to have a partner. But I think that that's the first hurdle that most guys have to overcome. When it comes to marriage, the fear of committing because you're afraid that you're leaving something on the table, or you're missing out on some other better partner, or some sexual conquest that you haven't accomplished yet. And if you really think, be honest with yourself, fellas, and that's one of the things that I promote, is just taking a good look at the reality of your situation and being honest about it. If you're out there and you're getting tons of girls and you feel like you need more of that, for sure, go do it. But if you struggle to date and you're dating a girl and you're thinking about marriage, but you're not sure if you have some more wild oats to sow, chances are you're not going to sow that many oats, fellas. So be honest with yourselves, right? But one of the most profound things that somebody told me was my cousin Danny once mentioned to me. He had just proposed to his now wife. And I asked him, I was a young man at the time, I was maybe 20 or 21, and I asked him, I said, man, how did you know? Like, how did you know when you were ready or she was the one, so to speak? And his response was, we were just sitting around doing nothing, watching TV, normal couple stuff, and I looked at her, and I thought to myself, this is it. It is not going to get any better than it is right now at this moment with this person here. And for me, that was enlightening. And it was enlightening because it didn't happen in some, magic moment or however you might want to think of a romantic moment. It happened for him in a kind of a mundane instance. And for me, that triggered something. It triggered an understanding that in marriage, the majority of your time is going to be spent like that. These moments that you see on TV with the sunset and the wild horses running through the surf. I don't know, romantic bullshit. That stuff's not real. The real stuff is when you're in the trenches with your spouse, up to your elbows in dirty diapers and frustrated, tired, and you want to ask yourself, can you be with the person in that circumstance? Because that's how you're going to spend the bulk of your time. You are going to be with your spouse in the times in your life when you're not at your best. And you have to ask yourself, honestly, is the person you're considering to marry going to be able to hold up? Or are they only going to be able to be with you when you're at your very best? This is not to say, gentlemen, that you should let loose and be a complete savage around your wives. Of course, you should put in the time and the effort to present the best version of yourself as much as you can. But the truth is, sometimes you wake up in the morning and you, have gas, you rip one in the bed, and your wife has to kind of be there for that. She has to tolerate it. So it's important that you think of those circumstances more than other circumstances when you're talking about, not the ideal married life, but more of the are you going to be able to go grocery shopping with this person and cook meals and, be on the same page when you're reprimanding your children? I think that was what was so profound about the statement that my cousin made to me. And I really used that myself when I was thinking about marrying my wife. Now, many men tell me this story. My wife was great until we got married. And then shit changed, man. She became a different person. And they always change. Women always change when you get married. And I have to say that hasn't been my experience. Now, again, I have an observation bias. This is an anecdote. I only know my own wife. But in general, I think that most people kind of stay consistent, right? And we have to look at the expectations that we have for our spouses before we get into marriage in order to figure out how things are going to be. So guys, for example, your wife, or the girl you're thinking about marrying, not quite your wife yet, but a girl you're considering as a wife, look at her with open eyes, look at her flaws, and assume that those flaws are going to remain there, all right? If she has, if she nitpicks on you or nags on you about, situation X, then situation X will be nagged at you until the end of time. Just make that assumption. If she has some physical flaw that you're not happy with, assume that that's going to be there and even get worse. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, this might come as a surprise, but we don't generally get better looking as we age. We tend to get sloppy and gross, and unless we're taking really good care of ourselves, our looks diminish over time, all right? But the central point I'm trying to make is, don't assume that problems that you have before marriage will disappear after marriage. Of course, the same thing goes for the ladies, right? If you are having a relationship with a guy and thinking about marrying them, and your boyfriend goes out with his buddies, 3 and 4 and 5 times a night, that's not really great for a marriage, right? So perhaps it would be a good idea to have a discussion about that instead of kind of assuming that when they get married, they're going to buckle down and be a better spouse, right? Because the truth is people tend to think that things aren't going to change. Now, I'm not saying that you should marry a person and not change. Far from it, in fact. I think that in order to be successful in marriage, you have to make some very fundamental changes. The first one you have to make is to act married, right? A married guy doesn't really go out with his buddies several times a week. Does that mean you should never go out with your buddies again? No. I think that you should be able to have fun with your friends and be able to go out with your buddies and have a good time and act crazy once in a while. But that is secondary. The primary relationship once you get married is with your spouse. And I think if there is one central problem in marriage, it's that many people don't recognize that the spouse is the primary relationship. One could argue that your spouse is even more important than your children, because if you do your job well as a parent, right, if you're a good parent, your children will leave you one day, right? They're going to grow up, go to college, get a job, have families of their own, and eventually do their own thing, right? So when you are involved in a relationship with your spouse, that should be the most important thing. You should put the most energy into it. Then we have to also understand that men like to look at women, right? And that doesn't go away when you get married. So you have to be careful. When I do my Road Rage podcast, I talk a lot about the caveman or Hulk brain, the really primitive reptilian brain, right? Well, that reptilian brain is responsible for fight or flight, but it's also responsible for reproduction. And you guys know you've been in situations where you get sex on your brain and it's hard to think straight, right? So as a married person, you have to really be aware of that and avoid compromising situations. If you go out with your buddies, especially your single friends, night after night, and you find yourself on the dating scene, it doesn't take long before your head gets into a dating mindset. And you start to have clouded judgment. You start to think about the women that you're seeing outside of your marriage as potential partners and start to diminish the relationship that you have with your wife. I've seen situations where guys start to resent their wives and they can't put their finger on it. They just start to really be upset with their behaviors, and it's because they're not acting married. Again, acting married is the biggest thing that you can do to make your marriage successful. Trusting your spouse. Look at your partner. You're married, right? Your partner is if you're religious, you've taken vows. If you're not religious, but you've made a promise to this person that you're going to have a lifelong relationship. So you look at them and you think to yourself, they're on my team. No matter what happens, they're on my team. Their failures are my failures. Their successes are my successes. Lots of husbands and wives are jealous of each other, right? When the husband does well, the wife is resentful. If the wife makes more money, the husband gets pissed off. And how can you be successful in marriage? That money should ideally be going to your family household, right? I don't know. In my house, we kind of share everything equally. I mean, maybe things would be different if one of us made vastly more than the other, but we kind of do the same in terms of our earnings. So we are very open about our finances. I trust my wife implicitly with our finances, and I don't have much to worry about with her. But then again, she acts trustworthy. She lets me know when she's going to be buying something, and we have discussions about it. We act as partners. So we have the feeling that we're partners, and subsequently we act that way. And I think that that's probably the most critical part, is acting the way you want to be. You want to be married? Act married. Now, this is not to say, however, that in a marriage things are always going to go well. right? Whenever you have a system of individuals, there's going to be times when you disagree. And that's okay. You can disagree. But here's the difference between a relationship that consists of people who think they're on the same team and a relationship of people who feel like they're opposing each other. When you disagree about things with a teammate, let's use a sports analogy. You and I or me and whoever are on a football team together, and a play goes sour, right? We fumble the ball, we lose possession. Now, if we're teammates, we're going to take a look at that, and we're going to try to figure out how to improve our performance for the sake of the team. Now, we may have disagreements about how to do that, and we'll argue about that. But throughout it all, there's a feeling that we're if we had to use body language, we're standing shoulder to shoulder and facing a problem, as opposed to facing each other and having an argument about it. So we're having a discussion about a problem. We may not agree on how to fix it, but the fact remains that we are arguing as friends and colleagues. When you start to have a contentious relationship, a relationship with a spouse where there's contempt, where there's animosity, it stops being that, right? It starts being adversarial. It starts being, well, you made this mistake because you're stupid, or you made this mistake because you're negligent or thoughtless. And the personal attacks come. And it's impossible to be successful in a relationship when the partnership becomes, the opposite of a partnership becomes I can't even think of the right word, becomes an enemy relationship. You, instead of being buddies, you are enemies. And reminding yourself that your partners can sometimes go a long way towards changing the tone of a disagreement. Another friend of mine, a very bright social worker named Jeff Dorner, gave me this analogy for a marriage. He goes, look, I think of a marriage this way. Remember when you were a kid, you got a jar and you put some fireflies in it? I think of a marriage as kind of being like a jar with two fireflies in it. And there are times when the fireflies are flying close together and times when they're flying far apart. But as long as they're in the same unit, the movement inside the jar doesn't make that much difference. And I apply this to my own life. You know, there are times when my wife and I are very much in sync, where we're doing things together, we're having fun, we're spending a lot of time together, and that's great. And there are also times when we separate a little bit, where she's doing her thing upstairs and I may be downstairs playing a video game or engaged in some other activity that she's not that interested in. And I see that as the times when we're flying further apart. But at no point do we feel like we need to go outside the jar. And there are times when we get very wrapped up in our own activities, whether she's on her tablet and I'm doing something else. And those periods can go for a prolonged time, and we have to check in with each other. Hey, are things okay? We haven't been spending that much time together. How do you feel about it? I feel okay about it. Okay, me too. I just wanted to check in. And we have a discussion to try to clarify, make sure that things are all, good in the hood, so to speak. And again, those discussions are impossible when you are at odds with each other, when you're having an adversarial relationship. When you're having the adversarial relationship, it's easy to think, well, she's ignoring me, so, F her. If she wants to talk to me, she can come down here. And then the cycle of, separation continues until sooner or later you want out of the jar. So how do you get to the point where you're having the kind of a partnership where you feel like teammates? Well, I like to talk about what the research shows, right? The research shows that the best marriages, the marriages that have the most satisfaction between partners, are the ones where the partners idealize a little bit, or idealize each other a little bit, rather. What that means is the partners kind of put each other up on a pedestal. And I think that goes a long way, right? It's almost like an affirmation. When we talked about the self-esteem episode, and we talked about saying positive things to yourself, about yourself, when we say positive things out loud about our partners, sooner or later we incorporate them into our ideas about our partner. So, my wife is the best at this, or my husband is really considerate and really great. And make it a point to talk up your partner to the people that are around you, but do it in an honest way. I mean, if your partner's a real shitbag, don't talk them up. If they're abusive to you or they're not giving you what you need, don't be dishonest about it. But if you have a decent relationship with your partner, say so. And what happens is you'll find that the more you say it, the more you reflect it in your behavior, the easier it becomes to act married, the easier it becomes to take your partner into consideration and to look at them and really think about them and say, look, this is a great person. I care about them. I want them in my life. And I want to make sure that whatever decisions I make, they're on board with and makes them happy and improves our life together. When you start to do that, I mean, guys, look, how many times did your wife or girlfriend get mad at you because they say you're thoughtless and you're not considerate? It becomes very easy to do that when you start to really think about them and be considerate of them. It sounds silly to say, but the best way to learn how to be thoughtful about a person is to think about them, and think about them in a positive way. And the best way to do that is to say positive things about them. So when you're with your buddies and you guys are talking trash about your girlfriends, and there's again, healthy venting is always good, but make sure you say, look, I have these problems with my wife, and she busts my chops about this stuff sometimes, but she's really cool. I think she's great. Verbalize that to your friends. And ladies, you may not know this, but sometimes it's hard for guys to talk to each other about their girlfriends or wives this way. It's not something that comes naturally all the time. But when you start to do it, fellas, it will change the way you behave with your wife. So now, I've just spent about 20 minutes talking about marriage, and I do not want you guys to think that I am pro Mr. Conservative marriage guy. No, marriage is not for everybody. And frankly, I don't think that I'm talking about marriage, but I'm talking about relationships in a more general sense. I don't think that the getting married in front of the church or the piece of paper or whatever that is critical, right? I'm just kind of talking about being a good human being, about having a person that you choose to bring into your life. Nobody's forcing you to bring this person into your life, and treating them as if you want them there. That, I think, is a very central piece of being a good partner. Now, I think there's plenty of times when you should divorce. You should definitely leave your partner if you find yourself feeling unfulfilled all the time. What does that mean? Look, some people, even if you're good at marriage, sometimes your partner is really bad at it. Sometimes your partner doesn't act trustworthy or doesn't act like a good partner, or for whatever reason takes advantage of you, or lies to you. And I'm not suggesting that you need to accept that. I mean, far from it. In fact, I think that if your marriage is not fulfilling your need, it's not a good marriage. You're getting married to enrich your life, period. Right? If you're getting married for any reason other than that, you're doing it wrong. The marriage is there to make your life better, to bring into your life a plus, not to shore up a problem that you already have, not to whatever. All right, the marriage is an add-on. It should be a bonus. It shouldn't be a weight that drags you down to the bottom, or of the ocean, or drowns you, or makes you feel like shit. And that's a great reason to leave somebody. Now, if you have a partner that has generally been decent and they're going through a rough patch, does that mean you should bail? No. Again, if you're on the same team, you should be able to tolerate some issues. But again, this is a very intensely personal decision when you start talking about like the ends of relationships and what you should do in a marriage. It's tough. It's tough stuff. And by all means, here's my public service announcement. If you're having trouble in marriage, go get counseling. Marriage counseling helps marriages. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes marriages end even after counseling, but that's okay. All right. The idea is, get a little professional help. Have a third party help you out sometimes, and you can do that by calling your insurance company, looking on in Psychology Today, SAMHSA.gov, SAMSHA.gov is a great resource for all kinds of mental health things. But for sure, go talk to somebody, a professional, to help you out if you're thinking about getting out of a marriage. So, if I may summarize, it's probably pretty apparent because I've talked almost a half hour, but I'm a fan of marriage. For me, it's been a wonderful aspect in my life. I can't imagine life being different. We have children, and I think that being married or at least being together with the parent of the children is pretty intense and pretty important in terms of raising children. God knows, I've had my kids by myself for a day, and they're lucky they're alive. Quite frankly, if I didn't know in my heart that my wife was coming back, those kids would have been in trouble. But yeah, it's being a single parent is tough. So it's always better to raise kids in a shared environment, if just for your sanity. I don't know, I haven't done a lot of the research, but I think that kids also benefit from having two parents in the house. But that said, it's not for everybody. I think that some people, frankly, aren't mature enough to be married. If you're not willing to make sacrifices for your partner, if you're going to be selfish, you're probably not going to be that successful. I think that a core piece of being in a committed relationship is understanding that the other person is just as important as you are. They have goals. They have experiences that are similar to your own. When they wake up in the morning, they don't wake up with the idea of wrecking your day. How often have you been in an argument with your spouse, and there's a little piece of you that says, you're just trying to are you just trying to ruin my day? Like, why are you doing this to me right now? And no, it's not that. I mean, if you start to think that, just erase that from your head right away. Your spouse is a person that makes mistakes, is a person that has ideas, who may not always communicate effectively, or who may get frustrated and lose their patience. They're a human being, all right? And understanding that, and understanding that not only they're a human being, but they're a human being that shares your successes and failures, and you share their successes and failures, really goes a long way towards helping you act married. All right. So, boys and girls, my rant on marriage is over. If you have any thoughts, please share them with me. Again, go download Twitter. It's a great app, and you can learn about the Kardashians and Kim and Kanye's fights and whatever kind of crap pop psychology you like, or you can follow some really cool people. If you have, like I said, Neil deGrasse Tyson always has really cool tweets, and Bill Nye the Science Guy. But definitely check it out. Follow me. Follow my buddy Mark Zinno. And you can email me any questions or responses that you have to this at breakdownswithg at gmail.com. Follow the Twitter at breakdownswithg. I have the Tumblr page, breakdownswithg.tumblr.com, and subscribe to me. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Breakdowns with G. Subscribe to my iTunes channel. You can look for me, Nervous Breakdowns with G, on iTunes, and Stitcher as well. So, thanks a lot, boys and girls. I hope you enjoyed the podcast, and I look forward to hearing your feedback.